Hi, everyone. Welcome to our September NPU-Y general body meeting. In the chat is a link to our general body meeting and handout folder, which has all of our documents for this month, as well as the minutes for last month. So it has your agenda, and for this month, it will contain our bylaws amendments. If you have more than one member joining the meeting on the account, please make sure that you put them in the chat so that way we can get their attendance roster. Couple housekeeping rules. If you can please stay muted, if it would help us get through our meeting in a timely fashion. If you would like to speak, use the raise hand reaction and you'll be called onto the floor in the order you are presented. If you do speak out of turn, you may be muted as it is a violation of Robert's Rules of Order. If you're using a phone, it is *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. Please keep all your comments and questions relevant to the general body, or you may direct them to the executive board's email, which is secretary@npuy@gmail.com. First is the approval of minutes. Right, we have on the screen our minutes from last month.
Madam Chair, these minutes are also shared at npui.org. Is that not correct for additional perusal?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, they are. They are also in the Google Drive, which is in the chat. Every month we have a folder for each meeting. So that there are no corrections, I would like to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All right, with no corrections, the minutes are moved or approved. And for our agenda, easy agenda this month. I motion to adopt the agenda. Are there any in opposition? All right, as I hear none, we will move on to our first agenda item of reports from city department representatives. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. I will first call Major Ricker. You have the floor.
All right, good evening, everyone. Going through the crime really quick for last month. 0 homicides compared to 2, 9 aggravated assaults compared to 3, 0 robberies compared to 2, 5 burglaries compared to 9, 16 auto thefts compared to 17, 11 larceny from autos compared to 16, 14 larceny non-autos compared to 14. Grand total of 55 compared to 63. Just to give you a quick overview, auto thefts. Out of those 16, 10 were Kia and Hyundais. I know we've kind of beaten that drum a lot, that we still have issues with mostly juveniles stealing those cars. A couple other noteworthy arrests in the space. So there was a football game over at Lakewood Stadium that got a little out of control at the end. It resulted in the Atlanta Police Department assisting the Atlanta Public Schools Police. And at that time, we were able to take an 18-year-old male in custody with a firearm on the school property. I just want to give you an idea of how that works. So obviously, you can't have firearms in the school grounds. He was in jail a total of 1 day with that firearm. So obviously, that's one issue that we continue to have. Another significant burglary arrest. If folks on this call didn't know, we have an issue with people going in and stealing copper from all the cell towers. Basically, what happens is all of a sudden you have no signal, and that's a bad thing. So we were able to track this gentleman down. He actually hit the cell tower at 1316 Lakewood, but we were able to take him in custody over on Gould Street, and currently he still is in jail. Obviously, that was for burglary, and we found the pawned items up there at the pawn shop. So they were able to assist us in making that case. We have several arrests in the 1600 block. of Jonesboro Road, as well as 1600 block of Lakewood Avenue. All of that is surrounding narcotics, from cocaine to heroin, powdered cocaine, crack cocaine, heroin, marijuana, a little bit of everything in that space. We continue to try to target that location and that area as well. And I'm open for any other questions that anyone has about any other specific things that have been going on in the space.
Right, are there any questions for public safety officers? As I see no hands raised, Gloria, would you like to tie in with as our public safety committee? Gloria, you are muted.
Major Ricker, would you highlight the meeting between Chief Shearbaum and the integral group, and what import you think that may have on the 200 units that are coming on?
Well, I'll just say that we continue to have problems over there in the villages at Carver. I drove through there again today because a lot of the problems kind of fall back on the lack of securing their gates, for entry and exit. And going through the property, I found none of them actually working correctly. So in that whole space. So we have a significant amount of stolen cars that come from that area. We had I guess you could call it a large disagreement that resulted in numerous arrests by the police department out in that space as well. So that is a location that we still have to continually keep a lot of assets in the area. So I know the meeting took place. I know there was some statements about crime in their area. I will say this, there's some issues that are complained on, that when they try to evict people, they're not allowed through the courts. So we are looking at that to see if that's legitimate and why they're having the problems that they're having. But that's where we are in reference to that space.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gloria, do you have any additions? You're muted again.
Yeah, I was going to let Major Ricker speak to the upcoming citizens academies that you thought might be helpful, whether it was the neighborhood watch.
So the recent, the latest Citizens Academy started a couple weeks ago. I will say this, and we had only one person there from Zone 3, and we had a good conversation. She was from a different NPU, and she asked, what do I think is missing? To me, the thing that's missing is that there was only one person from Zone 3 at the Citizens Police Academy, where other zones had upwards to 6 or 7. And the easiest way for people to understand, through the police eyes, what we're dealing with and be a bridge with the community is to participate in that Citizens Police Academy. I think it's a great thing. You get to see all the different sides of how the police department works, and it provides a lot of answers to a lot of questions, not just to that person, but then they can share it with others.
I would hate to tell you, Major Ricker, I think the big pushback is some folks think it's indoctrination. And I think that's what you have to kind of deliver. If it's something different, then that, I think, is what I traditionally hear is why would I want to go to the police academy, is if.
Well, if somebody thinks that, then I would think that they're a little bit, internally they're stronger, so they could come and negate that case if they believe that that's what we're doing during that time.
Yes. Madam Chair, Adrian is here, the one that she's out of zone. She's out of NPU-Z, but she attended, and she's present tonight, so she might speak later to the advantages.
Very good.
We actually have a few hand raised as well. Kimberly Brooks, you may have the floor.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I just wanted to speak to, I guess, some of the results that police, I forgot his name, was speaking of the villages at Carver. So I have been in this area for about 2 years now, and I have noticed a lot of policing. However, when it comes to, I'm listening to a lot of I listened to the report for the city council as well as various jurisdictions. My concern is, to some extent, over policing, because I live like right off of Maury Avenue with the intersection of Pryor. and I hear a boop, 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 at least every 3 to 4 minutes. So I have had 3 individuals in this area that have been pulled over with good insurance registration, and that I'm still, dealing with the police department in regards to that. So what I really acknowledge is I want to know what type of diversion or what type of programs are being offered, or what type of identification of issues that the police department is offering in regards to partnership with organizations for recreational opportunities and things of the like, because I think Metropolitan Parkway closed the skating ring area due to the shooting that occurred there. And that area was a space of recreation for a lot of youth in this area. So now that that's closed, you only have the YMCA and you have the Boys and Girls Club on Whitehead, which is on Lakewood, some distance afar, but there isn't much recreation. So as we identify the causes of the problems that we're seeing with policing, I would like to, if he could provide, I don't know if he's already provided it, the data in regards to the types of, for this specific reason. I heard the cocaine and the drug. I was looking for a ratio or number of types of arrests or pullovers, or some number that could indicate how many pullovers led to arrest and the type of, I guess, outcome that yielded from those arrests or those pullovers or things of the like. Because the takeaway from this is I do have a concern for it, because I've seen some disturbing things, which I've actually had a complaint of a heavy police force in this area for a now former resident of, I think I've expressed this and I'm tired of telling the story, of 14 officers kicking a young lady's door down because of a suspected animal in her home. And there was no animal in the home. And this was a holiday weekend. And this was a student of Clark Atlanta University and Spelman graduate with a PhD, a law-abiding citizen. So I would just like to hear more about what we're doing to counter these things, and some type of positive reinforcement that we're having. And I will just say, as me knowing the law and me knowing everything that I know, I am concerned about young people in this area cooperating with the police, because I speak to a lot of these young, well, most of them around here, and they really don't feel, they don't feel comfortable, or they don't feel that relationship is there, because they have, unfortunately, had some experiences, some valid, if you're doing, I don't support violence or anything. So that's, I just wanted to kind of make a note of that. Forgive me for not being at the meetings, because I've been dealing with, I'm only one person, but those are concerns that I have, because ultimately the goal is to make our community safe and to make this community thrive and be as great as it can be. But it comes with working together, no racial profiling, and also comprehensive programs, which I don't see in this area at all. So Promise Center, I'm familiar with the Promise Center as well. But when you talk about the numbers of people here in this just apartment alone in Lakewood Heights, those numbers compared to the capacity of those areas and what they can take as far as the outreach as well, are just a little bit. So I just want to note that. I'm not going to be long-winded, because I didn't want to be long.
Okay, so let me try to encompass what most of the stuff you asked. So as far as the availability of things, you said the skate rink closed. I believe that's up there at 1900 block of Metro that you're talking about. I believe. It's a private business. I don't know why they closed. I know we had a couple issues up there with a couple homicides. Whether that was related to it or not, I can't say. You did mention the Promise Center. Yes, that's around the 900 block of Metropolitan Parkway. It is actually a part of the Atlanta Police Foundation / Atlanta Police Department. And then the other part that we use as far as engagement with youth is our PAL, our Police Athletic League. Those are the main things that the police department does. Now, as far as the city of Atlanta, hopefully there's somebody else on here that can speak on what they share for the community. You did mention that there's not enough in the Lakewood community and villages at Carver. Obviously, yes, we want the kids doing things like that and not stealing cars and shooting at homes. Obviously, that's where we want the kids to go. We have had issues with the school right beside villages at Carver and the kids coming over and stealing those cars. specifically Hyundai and Kias. So yes, that's troubling. And we have met with the apartment manager over there, as well as that group, in trying to figure out how we can stop that criminal element from occurring inside there. What I mentioned about the gates, the entry and exit gates, that's just one of many things that can be done over in that space, and not just let people come and go into their communities that want to steal from them. So as far as the data, the number of traffic stops that lead to arrests, we can probably come up with that for you, but obviously not today. That's not something that we focus on every single day. I will say the number of traffic stops that occur in the zone compared to the crime level per week, there is a significant correlation to that.
Thank you, Major Ricker. Kimberly, I've sent you a couple contacts for our executive board and committee chairpersons. If you want to reach out, I'd be happy to give you some links to some online resources that would help give you some of those number data when it comes to APDs, arrests, and things like that in the area. There's updates that are monthly that you're able to see live. And I would also like to get you more involved with the community if you're willing to. So.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time?
Madam Chair, Adrian had her hand up, I think, at one point.
Adrian?
Yeah, I don't want to take the body's time, but I just wanted to say that I am at Police Academy, and I was the Zone 3 attendee, and I wanted to give a shout out to Shearbaum, what is it, Chief Shearbaum, who answered a ton of questions about the police training facility, Cop City. He gave some really good answers that really are not necessarily talked about in the media. So I found that really interesting. He was very forthcoming and very like, ask me anything. And then we also went to the 911 call center, and I was and that was really interesting. It makes you see the whole 911 process in a whole different light. You understand a lot more. And I saw calls, like I saw a call on Milton and in Chosewood Park, and that was kind of cool that I recognized so many of the calls. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that information. All right, with no other questions, thank you, Major Ricker, for joining, and I appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Next we have is our Chief Battalion for Fire Rescue.
Hey, hi, I'm Chief Katrier with Battalion 1 over on Jonesboro Road. Sorry, it's loud in here. I work in a firehouse, and there's a lot of folks here, so if I get a lot of background noise, I apologize. But just it was mentioned earlier that fall's around the corner, and the season's changing, so some colder weather will be coming at some point, and just want to remind everybody about a little bit of safety with your space heaters and your heating elements and that sort of stuff in the home, and just making sure that you've got plenty of space between those and any kind of combustibles like blankets and boxes and curtains and that sort of stuff. Just make sure you stay safe. And then the typical thing from the fire departments, all the services that we provide. We've always got smoke alarms that are available that are free of charge to the Atlanta citizens. We'd be happy to bring those to you if you so desire. We also offer a car seat program if you have little ones that need a car seat to sit in and keep them safe. And we also, you'll still see our folks out checking fire hydrants. It's going to be a long campaign for us this year. So we've got some doing an audit between us and the watershed department, making sure we can count for everything and make sure they all work properly so we can protect you folks. And that's about it for me. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for Atlanta Fire Rescue? All right, as I see none, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the call.
All right, thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Next, we have Gerard Jackson with Parks and Rec.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful evening. I hope everyone be safe. Right now, if I'm able to, I want to put in the chat a flyer that we created that outlines all the programs that the City of Atlanta Recreation Department is offering for the month of September. Each NPU moving forward, I will include that information so everyone is aware not only what's happening at the sites at your particular location, at your particular neighborhood, but at the rec centers throughout the City of Atlanta. So at the conclude of my presentation, I will be posting that to the chat so everyone have access to it. I want to inform everyone that as of this moment, I am no longer the facility manager for South Bend and Ferguson. I've transitioned to another role in the City of Atlanta Rec Department, but I still will be presenting information for you guys for your neighborhood, so I can make sure that the person that me, who's been here mostly and know neighborhood and know how to present, is the one giving out that information. I want to also get this time to let everybody know that we are inquiring about adult programming. We do have a new executive director who is really focused on offering programs not only for children and teens and seniors, but also adults. So if anyone has any time, please reach out to me so we get the ideas and the needs that are in the community so we can offer those particular resources so we can make sure that we're making a huge impact in the community. This more reference to Ferguson Park. It's not to South Bend yet. We're in the process of trying to figure out how to get that situated. But at this moment, the restrooms that are located outside of Ferguson Park will be open throughout the year. I know we had a problem in the neighborhood where people go to the park and there's no bathrooms. We do have those open. We are looking at see what's going on in South Bend, seeking something like that be installed. I do not have an update on that right now, but as soon as I hear something, I will let you guys know. I also want to let everybody know that at this time, the outside pools for the City of Atlanta are now closed for the season. But I do want to let people know that our natatoriums are open throughout the year. That's like our Washington natatorium. That's your Martin Luther King, C.T. Martin, and Roselle Fanning. They are open. Please visit them for their hours of operations. They are offering programming for teens, adults, and children. It's for intermediate. It's for beginners. We have a class for every purpose. So please come by those rec centers if you're interested in swimming. At this time, if there's any questions or concerns, please let me know.
Melody Ford, you have the floor.
Thank you. Gerard, I had a question about a tree that's down in Kimpson Park over here on Fairfield in South Atlanta. Do you have a contact who I can call to get it picked up? I think it was struck by lightning.
Please email it to me. Now, what we normally do is you contact 311 and they will create work orders for that. But you can also send me an email with that information. I let people know, please send me pictures too. You know how the old expression, a picture's worth 1,000 words? So please send me a picture in that location so I can go ahead and implement a work order for that. So I can go ahead and get that taken care of. But I know that currently know there is still trees down in South Bend with the trail area. We're in the process. It seems like every time we get started, a storm come by and knock over a few more.
Is your info in the chat?
Yes, ma'am. But at the end of when I'm doing my presentation, I'll make sure to include it again because I know with the chat going up, it can get missing. So at the end, I will post that again.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Jacob Mills, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, yes, I was wanting to know if we could get so in Chosewood Park, we have an issue where we're looking to get some help with stream restoration. We have a lot of new developments in our neighborhood, specifically Toll Brothers and 510 Sawtell, which is the old GM plant, which is dramatically affecting our stream, our perennial stream that we have running through our park. We have multiple trees that have come down over the past few months. We have a few trees that are actually laying over a sewer line, a main sewer line that runs through the park. And I was wondering if we could possibly start talking or putting this on an agenda on how we can work on stream restoration and working on protecting Chosewood Park.
Now, like I said before, for work orders, please contact 311. But at any time, you're free to contact me. I can go out there, meet community members, take pictures, get input, so I can go ahead and try to present that to the City of Atlanta so we can get those situations taken care of. So I'm going to put my information in the chat. Please reach out to me so I can go ahead and get that started for you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Park and Rec? All right, as I see none, I appreciate you being on the call tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, next I have Officer Cofield with Code Enforcement.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Officer Cofield with Code Enforcement for the City of Atlanta. I have 3 properties that I want to talk to you all about as far as me trying to get them under a nuisance abatement. So 1779 is under a nuisance abatement. I talked to Solicitor Smith about 1778. She was actually going to check into it to see if she can get it switched from the civil process that we put it in and try to get it as a nuisance abatement. Also 807 Cunley, which I did have to do a reinspection, and when I went out there, the trash is just still all over the actual parking lot, all in the back of the car wash. So I've sent that to Civil, but I wanted to talk to Smith, Solicitor Smith, about that one as well, being a nuisance abatement. I know they have other tenants that are in that particular area, but when I go over there to the area, I'm not able to speak with anyone because they're not at their facilities. I think you have a hairdresser, you have the car wash, which is it's not operating, and you have a barber shop. I think that there is 2. So it is under the civil process. So with that particular process, the courts are subpoenaing the owners to the actual courts. And what they're doing with the civil process, they're paying a fine or you'll actually access jail time. So whichever one our judge Porters usually does not like to do jail time, but you're gonna pay a healthy fine that starts off at $500 for any violations. So those are the 3 that I kind of have on my book. I have some other ones that I'm trying to work on School Drive. I'm trying to get those as nuisance abatements, but I don't have the actual address. It's a 400 and something on School Drive, but me and Miss Smith wanted to go over. They were going to actually meet me out to the property, and we were going to go over the ones I wanted to put for a nuisance abatement. So it is a lot of them that I want to do for a nuisance abatement in the area. It's just how I'm coordinating with Solicitor Smith as to try to get those as nuisance abatement. Any question? Yes, ma'am.
Gloria,
Okay, I think 2 things. 1779 under Solicitor Andrew Hughes had already been declared a nuisance in
Yes.
21, I guess, in 20
Yes.
or 21. So there's a revisit of that issue. Is that
Yes.
what
With Smith, because it's not nothing going on that I know of. So that's why I'm trying to revisit a lot of things that was on the list for nuisance like in 2021, and I think that was during COVID. So I'm not sure. I got to figure out, well, with her, where it stands, because it's now 2023 and I'm asking questions now because I'm getting phone calls about both of those, which they're right across the street from each other.
Absolutely. But 1778 is under criminal action as well as a title issue. Are you aware of that? 1778.
So I've spoken with the owner. With me speaking with the owner, it was the young lady that was living on the actual property. She was the problem, and she said that she owned it. And of course, I haven't seen her recently, but I have seen somebody up there today. I don't think it's her, but I didn't approach because it was a lot of criminal activities. Like I heard that she had stuck somebody with a knife, or she brought out a knife. So I don't want to approach her so much. I've approached her once and she got into it with me about ownership, and I told her she was not the owner of this particular property, that she needed to get off of the property. But of course, she had a fuss with me that she had paperwork. So upon her going back to the car to get paperwork, which she brought out a lot of papers, they were dingy, dirty, but I actually had the owner on the actual phone, and I was speaking to him about her being on his property, and he said that no, she's not the owner, he is the actual owner of the property. So we're in kind of talking backwards and forward about ownership,
Thank you.
but I want it under a nuisance, so that's why I'm trying to get Solicitor Smith to actually offer it as a nuisance, because it's nothing being done to the actual property. It's the same stuff that has been sitting on that yard is still sitting there.
Thank you. Next I have Tally. You have the floor.
Just curious as to what's your preferred method of contact. I have emailed you multiple times regarding 1101 Oak Knoll Terrace Southeast. I haven't heard back.
Okay, so what you're probably getting is my desk number. I'm not sure, but if you see I can put my name and number in the actual chat.
No, there was no
1101 Oak Knoll. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I've emailed you, not
Okay.
called. But is it better to email because I haven't heard back, or is there another way?
It's better to call.
Better to call? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Because you'll get me right on I just came back about 2 weeks ago, so I did take a vacation for about 2 weeks. So I am here now. We do have some type of training that we're going to, that my office is going to tomorrow. But I can talk back to you now. If you call me right after this, I'll actually talk to you.
Okay. So do you have your information in the chat?
Yes, ma'am. It's further towards the top, but I can put it in right now again.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll give you a call
Okay.
after this concludes.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, just ask her also to reach out to me. I've got the files from Hughes as well as Tobe Johnson. I'm surprised Ms. Smith hasn't been able to reference those, but if you will, Cynthia, I've got copies.
Gloria, if you guys can take this offline just for the sake of time. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Do we have any other questions for Officer Cofield? Kimberly Brooks?
Yes, ma'am.
Kimberly Brooks, you
We
are
can't hear you. You're muted.
I am muted. I am muted. What is the turnaround time for a code coming out after they conduct the inspection, the process of going through that? What is that turnaround time? Because I'm curious because I think it was November last year, August last year, that I reported a specific incident, and I think we're in September this year, and I haven't heard. It seems like nothing is happening until I pick up the phone and call someone, which fortunately I have been able to reach someone. But as I keep up with it on your online database that you have for me to see what's going on, it seems like every time I call, an action is taken. But if I don't call, nothing is happening in regards to, I guess, a violation that has been documented as a violation. What is the turnaround time for you guys to deal with that typically?
So if your case, and this in the sake for time, if your case goes to for reinspection and the violations still are stood, then this case, if it's a apartment complex, probably goes under a civil process. So we are within the civil process, it's the courts that have to subpoena the company or the property manager to the courts. So it's not necessarily code enforcement, even though we will come back out and do a reinspection once the court subpoena the property manager or the owner of the actual property. I can't. You give me an address, I definitely go back in and I'll look at and see where it is at this particular moment.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Brooks, do you have an address?
You're muted again. If you want to drop it
I
in the
do
chat
have an
for us.
address. I can contact her. I just wanted that question to go on the record, about the specifics of it. No worries. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for the code enforcement? All right, as I see none, thank you so much, Officer Cofield. I appreciate you being on the call.
All right. Okay, thank
Next I have is Officer Lawrence with the Department of Public Works Suite Team.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm Officer Lawrence with the Department of Public Works. I am code enforcement for solid waste. I handle everything at the curb going forward, as well as illegal dumping. Officer Cofield, she handles everything in the yard going back. Just wanted to put that out. This week, we will not be doing yard trimming collection. We are still on bi-weekly collection of yard trimming. I am not sure as to when that will, we will start back doing it weekly, but right now we're still on bi-week collection, this week being our off week. In between that time, if you have a boat scheduled for this week, we will still collect it. Just make sure that it's not near your mailbox or utility pole, and make sure the logs are cut down to size to make sure that you are compliant so the crews can collect it. I did have a couple of things that came in last couple of weeks. One was 2000 Compton Drive. Our crews did come out and remove some of the dumping that was close to the right of way. I'm sure APD code has a case on it, but we wanted to clear as much on the right of way. We will be trying to cut back some of those trees as well. We just can't go on the property and do those things right now. So we just have to handle everything on the right of way, but we did clean up. Hopefully they have not went back and dumped at that property, but it was cleaned up when I went out and did a re-inspection a couple of days ago. Also, if anybody is on the call, I've got several complaints as it relates to containers being out in the area around Lansing Street, Brown Avenue, there. So if you could pass the word to your neighbors possibly about the containers being at the curve. Collection day is Thursday, unless we have a holiday, which will put it back one day. But other than that, containers are not allowed at the curve. I know it seems minor, but it is a violation. You can be cited for it. So if you guys could just pass the word to your neighbors, and if I see them while I'm out on patrol, I do educate them and leave them notice for compliance. Sometimes, again, that does take some time. Sometimes we have to actually contact the owners because the residents living in the property are not the owners, so they don't typically sometimes comply. So we have to go a little farther. So it does take some time. So if you all could just be patient with us on that part. Other than that, I don't have anything else. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll stand by and I'll resubmit my information inside the chat.
Thank you, Officer Lawrence. Are there any questions? All right, as I see none, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the call.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Do we have any other city departments or city representatives outside of elected officials that are on the call?
Yes, ma'am. I see CM Lewis is on. Councilmember Lewis is on.
That would be an elected official, so he will be after we wrap this section up. I do see though ATL 311 is on if they would like a moment.
Hello, how you guys doing this evening? I'm Sheena, your 311 ambassador. You'll reach out to us for any of your non-emergency issues, such as your potholes, water main breaks, missed trash, code violations, or any kind of challenges that you may face with the city of Atlanta. It is several different pathways to reach us. One is just dialing 311 on your phone, Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can email us at atl311@atlantanga.gov. You also can set up an account going on www.atl311.com or either download the app on your mobile devices. They're also available on all your social media platforms. our contact information. I will post all that in the chat along with the survey. And is there any questions or any cases that needs to be escalated? I'll be able to assist and address those as well tonight.
Thank you. Before I call any hands, if you do have specific cases, please keep it brief so that we can allow you to talk offline. Jacob Mills, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 314 Dalton Street. It's in Chosewood Park. We have a developer that's had multiple issues with some of our legacy residents. We have a few complaints that have come up regarding debris that's been in the sidewalk for multiple days. This developer, it's a single family, new construction. We've had issues with multiple things, including alleyway encroachments, destruction of legacy residents' properties. And so we've had multiple complaints regarding the debris that is still left on the sidewalk at 314 Dalton Street.
Now, have you already put a case in for it that I can check into or get escalated for you?
Yes, ma'am. We have put a case in. We've had a few of the residents that put them in with 311. I'm not sure, but because it's a sidewalk, they had responded that it was another department that would be involved, but I just wanted to bring it up this evening since you were here.
Now, anything on the sidewalk or within the right of way, we will put in a request for it to be cleaned up under the it's the right of way litter option. So I can put another one in, but I'll actually go ahead and check the system while we're on here tonight and see if I can find any other cases associated with that address and just go ahead and get it escalated for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem at all, Mr. Mills.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you're able to put your information in the chat, that way our members have contact information and our executive board is able to reach out as well. I'd appreciate it.
No problem. Do that now.
And for the minutes, of course, too. All right.
Have a
Are
good
there
night.
any other questions for ATL 311? All right. Thank you so much, Sheena Weaver. I appreciate you.
All right. Y'all have a good evening. Bye-bye.
All right, next we will move to our elected officials. Again, please keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. First we have up is Antonio Lewis. Councilmember Antonio Lewis, you have the floor. Councilmember, you are still muted.
I'm hoping, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
If you can hear
Yes,
me,
we can hear you. Yes, we can.
Thank you. So a few things, thank you for inviting me. A few things I wanted to first. So first I want to say thank you for inviting me today. A lot of things been going on down at City Hall. I know you all have been watching either on the news or reading about. And today we were able to pass some legislation to clear up some of that stuff, to say that the city of Atlanta needs to accept these signatures. And so today we actually passed that legislation in City Hall. So I wanted to first make sure I put that out, that today we passed legislation to say that we think that we should actually do it. And we sent it post haste over to the mayor of Atlanta. I'll jump into other things going on in the district. I've been working with Joyland, the community of Joyland, on cleaning up the park a little different. And so with adding in additional trash cans, addressing the graffiti and the walkway backboards. And also they've been working on trying to change out the skate park. And so we're talking with the community. They have a certain amount of signatures in which they want to remove the skate park that's actually sitting in Joyland. Those are very direct issues. I want to make sure I addressed it first. We're also working on legislation along with the state and the county to hold apartment owners accountable, like the ones of Manor 3 that sit over in Joyland. The person that owns Manor 3 also owns Pavilion on Cleveland Avenue. It's one of the dangerous dwellings in the city of Atlanta. And so we're working on legislation to hold them accountable in a different kind of way. And that's with going after them with heavier fines and going on in ways in which that only Fonnie Willis can get done. So we're working on new ways to hold apartment owners accountable. Lastly, bi-weekly, we do a District 12 food giveaway. Every single other week, we give away 1,000 cases of food to 1,000 different families. We do this giveaway at Roselle Fan, but the giveaway goes out to up to 10 miles. Up to 10 miles, you can have Lyft or Uber food actually deliver you food to your address. So that's another thing we're trying to do in the district, we're trying to promote. Our biggest issue is we need some more volunteers for that. And so before I leave, I'll be adding in the link so that people can volunteer for the food giveaway.
Any other?
And I wanted to make sure that the things I talked about were directly to the portion of the community that sit in District 12 first. But I'm open to any kind of questions.
Thank you so much. Paul McMurray, you may have the floor.
Yes, I've meaning to talk to you concerning the Corps of Engineers activity around the lake in Lakewood. I just wondered, can we have a community meeting on what the Corps of Engineers are going to do? Because the problem is, the lake should be a recreational resource for the community. And the Corps of Engineers are just going to do some engineering things, and the state of the lake and the way that it's kept away from the community is still there. Given that the Corps of Engineers also organizes lakes like Lake Lanier, certainly we should have a community recreation and natural resource use of that body of water. And all the money being poured in there to erect another dam or something, I'm not sure what it is. There should be space in there to discuss what is this body of water as a recreational resource for the community, and just not how we can use it as a pond for storing water. You know, and I just wondered.
You got me smiling right now, brother. You got me smiling right now. So my dream is to one day be able to, you've heard of shoot the hooch. My dream is to one day be able to shoot the South River, because I think all of these lakes around here are going to be connected somehow, some way, because I used to play in them growing up. And so that's a conversation that we haven't explored yet. When I first got elected, I found out that the biggest issue of flooding that we had in our district was that lake. And it's such a bad issue that we lose funding even for our stadium fund, because Lakewood Amphitheater was losing money for canceled shows. And so that was the first thing. Because you brought this to me, it'd be something I would want you to help lead as well, Mr. Paul. So I would want to get an email from, not lead, I want to help you. I would want you to be a part of it. Today at City Hall, we gave away an award to the Nature Girls. And the Nature Girls, what they did was they're the folks that are responsible for what Cascade Natural Preserve looks like. They are the group of folks that got together, who live in the community, who fought to make sure that Cascade Natural Preserve became what it is now. So, Paul, I would love to have. That's something we can set up with the Corps of with the folks that are working on it. I can't say what the Army is going to allow us to do, but with the city's portion of the money, we can see what we can get done, because they still are in the beginning stages of it.
Right. So I just think it's our opportunity to expand what they're doing. All they want to do is control water.
Paul, for the sake of time, do you think that we can set up a meeting with everybody that would like to be involved, so that we can discuss this further? Because I think this is going to be more than a 2-minute conversation.
I've got his number. I'll just call him.
Thank you.
Long-winded now.
Jacob Mills, you have the floor.
Yes, so I would like to, I've had this conversation with Councilmember Winston as well, but I think we should have some type of talk regarding the development of McDonough Boulevard. And we've tried to reach out regarding, an expansion on this road. This is a main thoroughfare that's a connection point between everything from Thomasville Heights, Benteen Park, Chosewood Park, historic South Atlanta, and Lakewood Heights. We have a lot of new development. I'm sure you're aware of the old GM plant that's coming.
Well, Jacob, I actually am not, because that's actually not my district.
I know it's not your district, but I would like to just see some support based on, when this does become something, because we would like to see. I know that the ATL DOT and the GDOT doesn't really look into future use studies, but I think that's something that we need to seriously start considering, because once those corner blocks of these SAPs and these rezonings become put in place, we lose the opportunity to have connection points from pedestrian pathways, bike lanes, and a good thoroughfare between our neighborhoods. So if this does come up and you do see this from Councilmember Winston, I would hope that you would support something.
I definitely support it. I got stuck at it's so close that it's crazy. I got stuck at the train last week when I was on my scooter. Right when I got there, I was trying to cross over McDonald Boulevard, like coming from downtown going towards Carver High School. I actually got stuck by a train there. So I was thinking about like mobility issues. And I was on my instant wheel scooter at the time. So I wasn't even in the car. And I was stuck. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yes, it is an ongoing issue, and it definitely needs to be raised.
But I will say one last thing. I apologize. We have set it up to where trains cannot stop for longer than 15 minutes. And so if you see that happening, please let us know, because we are fining them. They're getting fined for doing it. So that's why a lot of things are moving a little faster. I don't know if people have noticed it, but they can't stop for longer than 15 minutes.
We have noticed that, and thank you for that. We appreciate that. Thank you, Councilman Lewis. Appreciate your time.
And that was our legislation right there from our office too. So
thank you. Gloria Hawkins, you have the floor.
Yes, very quickly, Madam Chair, is it appropriate to thank Councilmember Lewis for his support of Unity Day? As we just heard, a very small slither of NPU-Y is actually under his jurisdiction. I would say probably less than 10% of NPU-Y. And to that end, as we can see, he's front and center spreading the money, spreading the news. And again, he was a huge supporter of Unity Day, NPU-Y Unity Day, with not only his presence, but with funding. And I just think, Madam Chair, I hope it wasn't inappropriate to thank him for that.
No, we greatly appreciated it. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Councilmember Antonio Lewis?
My favorite coffee shop is in NPU-Y, Black Coffee. So
absolutely,
no better place to do that than that.
Well, thank you so much. And we do have your information in the chat. So if you do have any additional comments that you'd like to make, especially about the lake or any of our transportation, please reach out to him personally. And you're able to CC our executive board as well, so we can work together as a community. Thank you so much, Antonio Lewis.
You run a good meeting. You run a good meeting.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye, y'all.
All right. Do we have any other representatives for our elected officials on our call?
Madam Chair, there are no more elected officials, but there's Leah from DCP, as well as Dr. McCrae from Morehouse School of Medicine. I don't know where you'd like to fit them in.
Morehouse School would be under announcements. Leah may raise her hand, Leah LaRue, if she would like to have the floor, and she is more than welcome to. We will then move on to our committee reports. Please remember that we do have our bylaws to review, so we are trying to make up a little bit of time here. So please keep your reports to 2 minutes or less. Please hold any comments for our committee chairpersons until all of the reports are completed. If it is something that you can directly message or email them, please do so. Their information is in the agenda. First, we will have is our zoning, land use, and code enforcement, which is Jacob Mills and co-chair Bob Morris.
Hi, everyone. Jacob, I'll let you fill in everyone on exactly what's going on in Chosewood, because everyone there certainly are a lot of zoning activities going on. We have some SAPs that are coming in for the old GM plant at Sawtell, also one on McDonald, which is currently zoned MR4A for a multifamily development. We'll be discussing those in the upcoming zoning meeting. You're all welcome to come. It's the last Wednesday of the month. Jacob, you want to update folks on what's going on in Chosewood, specifically the McDonough project?
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you, Bob. Just real quick, we do not have any cases for our ZRB. The meeting is October 5th. There are no cases for the ZRB hearing. We do have 2 cases that are coming up for the SAP hearing, which is August 23rd at 12 p.m. It will be held at City Hall in Committee Room number 1. And our first SAP is BL 2325. This is the 514 McDonough Boulevard. The applicant is Michael Costa. The Chosewood Park Neighborhood Association has hired legal counsel to help us with this. We will be filing an appeal regarding 514. This is for a residential development. And let me pull this up while I'm sitting here. On the agenda, this is number 43. The special administration permit application is for new apartments and site work located at 514 McDonough Boulevard. The property is currently zoned C2C. It's in the BeltLine overlay. It is in the commercial service district with conditional within the BeltLine overlay. I will go back to this one. But our second SAP is number 49 on the agenda. This is ZLL-23-30. This is a special administration permit application for single family attached dwellings located at 1335 Boulevard. The property is zoned MR3C, and the applicant is Peter Ewing. Both of these will be held, like I said, on August the 23rd at 12 p.m. at the City Hall in Committee Room number 1. And then, Bob, as you had mentioned, the SAP for the 510 Sawtell, let me pull this up. This is an application that has been approved, and this is something that will definitely affect the NPU-Y as a whole. This development is 14.9 acres. It's formerly the old General Motors plant. And what they have proposed for their unit or phase 1 is 1 to 5 stories high with parking decks, 734 apartment units.
Jacob, that's time.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I would request another 120 seconds to be able to complete my report.
You may have that.
Thank you very much. So there are 734 apartment units. There is 47,693 square feet of retail space and amenity space, including rooftop pool and parking provided for 1,234 cars. This particular application, I don't know if anybody has checked this out, but they did start removing the old buildings that were on that location. I will put my information in the chat if anybody has any questions for me or for Bob, and I would recommend that everyone please attend the zoning committee meeting, which is, Bob, you can help me on the date here, the next date. But I do want to go back to the SAP BL 2325, which is 514 McDonough. It goes back to my question that I had asked Councilmember Lewis. We have some serious issues that we believe are going to be coming online when it comes to traffic control. We're hoping that we can ask these developers to start looking into helping us with this type of traffic control for pedestrian pathways, sidewalk amenities, bike lanes, and connectivity for our neighborhood. This particular developer, we have asked multiple times to come and speak with the executive board for Chosewood Park. They've refused. They also refused the request from our council member, Jason Winston. So that is why we have hired a legal counsel regarding that one particular development. Actually, they have 2 properties, 514 and 516 McDonough Boulevard.
That is time again.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate your time. I'll put my information in the chat.
Thank you. Next, we will go to see who's on the call at the moment. Education Committee, Monique Nunley.
Hey y'all. as y'all know, we're still looking for a chair to have committees. Right now, we just are working on our survey so that we can get engaged where people are with education and what they would like to see in their schools. So that's where we all put it in the chat. Please fill out the survey so that we can share this information with our new superintendent, Dr. Battle, as well as our new president of purpose-built schools in our community, for Price, Slater, and Carver STEAM. Really excited about Carver Cluster Night, which is November 3rd. Really supporting our community so that way we all go out to Lakewood Stadium and we all show up and turn up for our Carver football team. And we're also currently advocating for band uniforms. So we just won some band instruments for Carver STEAM. So we're really excited about the band instruments at Carver STEAM and Carver Early College. And that's pretty much what we're doing right now is just focus on the survey, getting the survey into as many people's hands as possible and making sure people are sharing what they want to see, because this is a great time with new leadership and transition. This is the perfect time for you to share your feedback about what you want to see in your schools, even as we think about how to use our public spaces like our stadium for the community, our lake. How do we connect all of these pieces for our community to have a better quality of life for our students? These conversations are happening. And I appreciate Paul for lifting that up. That's a public resource. We need to use it as such. Our kids need to access it in a safe way. So these are things that we want you to be at the table of. So if you're interested, I know I heard Ms. Brooks talk about youth diversion programs and what are the activities and things that we're doing for the youth to keep them out of our jails. These are conversations we're having. Let's have them as a collective and use our collective power to go into these institutional spaces and get what we need for our young people.
Thank you. Next, we will have Lakewood Oversight with Yolanda Cameron.
Hello, good evening, everyone. The Lakewood Committee met last week, Oversight Committee met last week. Not a lot to discuss, only had one issue of the funds for the current, I think the current season, or the check for the Lakewood Finance Committee has not been issued. So we're following up with the general manager of Lakewood Amphitheater. And then on the concert side, not that, I don't think we have that many left. I think we have 2 more within the month of September. Let's see, one is on Sunday and another one is next Wednesday. And then the last one of the season will be Saturday, October 7th. So not much going on, just winding things up.
Thank you so much. Next, we have APAB, Gloria Hawkins. Wynn?
One quick question. Do you mind if I ask Yolanda, Madam Chair?
If we can hold questions to the end, please.
Yeah.
End of meetings.
The Atlanta Planning Advisory Board met on this past Saturday. A lot of you know it's APAB is what it's known as. We're a policymaker advisor to the mayor and city council. We are right now going through a reformation of our bylaws, as well as we are attempting to look more at governance. In the past 12 months, we have morphed into having only 25 voting members. I think prior to that, we under our bylaws, we're doing something different, and we've got feedback from the city attorneys that we were out of order or not in compliance with the ordinance. So we are more in a period of transformation, reformation. We do have a strong CDHS committee that meets every first Monday of the month. It basically syncs and parallels many of the issues that we deal with here at the NPU-Y level. Again, we also have archived meetings. I really suggest and would like many of you to take a look at our archived meetings at APAB Atlanta. Right there amongst all of the other city business, you can find us. Again, we meet in person 10 to roughly 12:31 every 3rd Saturday of the month, and would like more of you to get involved. Right now, we have Adrian who's with us. She is the representative from APAB to the Atlanta Citizens and Review Board. She is in NPU-Z in terms of where she resides, but she is responsible to NPU-Y to update. She again she is an appointee from APAB to the ACRB, but she represents the members and constituents of Y. So that is much of what we do. We have probably over 40 appointments from APAB that are disseminated in the various agencies or allied departments within the city. Most recently, we have Bob Morris as well as Heather Graybill, who've been appointed to TADAC. Reach out to me or Leah LaRue for any other additional appointments that may be available through APAB for the members of the different NPUs.
Thank you. Last committee that I see that is on is Special Projects Ad Hoc Committee. While I do not see a leader on, Kelly Petty, would you like to do a update? You are muted if you are trying to speak. All right, we will move to any questions for our committees or committee chairpersons. We have Gloria Hawkins. You have your hand raised first.
God, I can't recall who I was going to ask that question to. Who was speaking when I went to ask?
Me.
Oh yeah, very good. Thanks, Yolanda. I just heard that there's been no check from the amphitheater. Is there anyone, we don't really hear from the finance people, is there any way that they could report periodically as to what's in the treasure and what's been, what monies have been given out in X, Y, and Z during the course of
Yeah, I'll have to loop in. I'll connect with our chair about that. But I know we have the treasurer, so, and the treasurer is a part of NPU-Y. So I'll reach out.
Yeah, and to that end, Madam Chair, the next round of submission is October 1. I don't see anyone here from the Finance Committee, and I know we lost Jimmy, so that is very relevant that folks know who are wanting to apply for that 2,500 that that it has to be in the mail and postmarked before October 1. Is that correct, Yolanda, to your knowledge? Oh no, Adrian is there. Adrian is also on the Finance Committee. So that to hear from the Finance Committee would be very helpful, Madam Chair.
Do we have anybody here from the Finance Committee at this time?
Adrian is, even though she's from Z.
Adrian?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I stepped away until I came for 1 second, and I came back and heard my name. What do you need?
No, we update from the Finance Committee as to when the next submission date is and any other relevant. We have not been able to get reports at Y on what the what currently is the balance in the account and which organizations have received them.
Yeah. So October 1st is the next deadline. I will post or I can send to the chair for dissemination throughout the NPU the new application form. Nikki Garcia is not here right now. So the last we just did a site visit in NPU-Y for the South Bend Commons. They wanted a grant for the to make an outside area in front of their facility. I don't know if you know where that is. That's right in NPU-Y, right near the Ali building.
Thank you so much. And yeah, if you can send us the information, we'll make sure to email that out as soon as possible. So any
I will.
eligible members that are able to apply are able to get that out on time.
Madam Chair,
sure.
May we also note that the terms and condition of the grant are at npuy.org. So
yes.
Anything anybody needs to know about that process is posted at npuy.org.
Thank you so much. Heather, you have the floor. Heather Graybill.
Yeah, my question's for probably Lakewood Finance or Oversight. Just wanted to know if we could get an estimate on when the Q2 approved grant payments are going to be made.
I can find out. I can find out when the checks are being cut. If I'm going to drop my email Or if you give me your email, I'll give you an update as soon as I can find out when the checks will be cut.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Monique Fellingly, you have the floor.
I just want to say, there is, I did not say it through my report, but there's a Board of Education candidate debate at 1800 Jonesboro Road on Wednesday at 6 p.m. if you want to meet the APS board candidates. All of the even seats, am I saying that right? No, sorry. All the odd seats are up for election. So 1, 3, 7, and 9. So it's 4 seats. 1, 3, 7, and 9 are all up for election. Our particular board member, Katie Howard, I believe is running unopposed. So they'll be there to share their ideas, and I think it'd be good for us to hear them. So I would love to see people show up or lean in or email me if you have questions, and I'll take them if you're like, I gotta work or gotta do something.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, as there are no other hands raised, we will move on from our committee reports. You may also look at the agenda if you need any contact information for our committee chairpersons. Moving on will be matters of voting, which this evening we are on NPU bylaws. So as we know, this is going to be a lengthy discussion. I will share on my screen the information, but I'm also going to drop in the chat once more the link to our Google Drive. This Google Drive has all of the documents that we will be reviewing and voting on. Before we move to review any of these documents, I do want to make sure that everybody notes the voting regulations. For bylaws, there are no restrictions on eligibility based on attendance. You must be a resident, not a business owner, but a resident of the NPU-Y district and 18 years or older. Give me a moment just to share my screen real quick. Right, so we have multiple versions of reviewing this. So in that Google Drive, there is a red line version, which may be easier for some to follow, but we will actually be going over the proposals individually on another document, but this does give you reference to that information. We will be going through them as each section. Give me one moment, just kind of move things around here. And I apologize, we do have a correction that business owners are able to vote on bylaws. My apologies there. All right, so for our first order of change is Article 1.2.1, communication channels. The portion that is in red where it states Facebook and Twitter will be removed. So the official and recognized communication channels for NPU-Y include the regularly scheduled meetings of the general constituency and all committees, the minutes of those meetings, and the NPU-Y website, email distribution list. Facebook and Twitter is adjusted to state and relevant social media accounts. Now, if you do have any questions regarding any particular portion that we review, please raise your hand as we review them so we can make adjustments and comments, and we will vote at the end. Next is Article 1.3.1, neighborhood organizations. So once again, we removed in red, which is the valid copy of certificate of incorporation and about the civic and neighborhood organizations as business members. So to read the original in whole is NPU-Y shall recognize all civic associations that operate in the constituent neighborhoods of NPU-Y. To qualify for recognition by NPU-Y, each civic organization or association or neighborhood association must possess and present to the Assistant Secretary for Membership and Communication all of the items below, and that is evidenced by the civic association or neighborhood association of a physical address that is located within the boundaries of NPU-Y, valid copy of certification of incorporation, bylaws currently in effect, a list of officers for the current year and for the upcoming year, evidence of regular meetings and copies of minutes, the civic association or neighborhood organization shall request in writing to the Assistant Secretary for Membership and Communication for NPU-Y a desire to be an active participating business constituent member of NPU-Y. As we removed section B and the last section, that did affect our section C as well, which is a list of officers for the current year and the conclusion of the following elections each upcoming year. Next is our election of officers, Article 3.1. And we changed one portion of and he or she, and so it will say who to be more non-binary and inclusive. And additionally, we changed section E. The term of each officer commences immediately upon the certification of the election results by the presiding officer. Section E will now read, the term of each officer commences upon the certification of the election results by the presiding officer, initiating a 1-month, 30-day transition period in accordance with the terms set forth in Article 3, Section 3.1-A, which now states in our current bylaws that our officers will not take hold in December, they will take hold in January. Next set is our treasurer. There were a couple adjustments for section B. It will now read to maintain an accurate record of all expenditures accrued and occurred by NPU-Y and to coordinate the payment of, instead of to pay, any and all costs for services and goods provided to NPU-Y. Additionally, sections E and F were added. That is, shall serve as fiduciary for any and all grants, donations, or monies from fundraising activities for NPU-Y. This may require the treasurer to register as a vendor for the city. Shall for any reason the treasurer be unable or unwilling to maintain the status of a vendor to fulfill any requirements set forth by the city, the elected officer shall appoint another current officer to maintain status as a vendor within the city. With the approval of the current officers, will determine which community-based nonprofit organization will reserve any and all NPU-Y funds subject to majority plus 1 vote of the general constituency of NPU-Y at a regularly scheduled monthly meeting.
Madam Chair, questions being held to the end?
No, you may raise hands at any time that you have a question so we can review them as we go through.
Madam Chair, I would just like to comment if there's an impediment from the treasurer being able to become a vendor, it just seems more logical to require that the treasurer have vendor status with the city versus having to somewhere along the way realize that they don't have vendor status and then suddenly need to find someone or something with vendor status. Just seems like it would be a requirement if we're going to institute section E.
So to become a vendor with the city does take time. And so to have people that are wishing to be or are nominated for a position to already apply for vendor status may not fall within the purview of most individuals. However, we did place in there that if the treasurer is unable to retain that status, that we are able to appoint another officer, or of course, the nonprofit is able to be a vendor as well.
I hear you.
All right, moving to our next section of Article 3.2.6, Parliamentarian. This section changes only portion C. Robert's Rules of Order is recognized as a proper parliamentary procedure for conducting business in all NPU-Y and committee meetings and or sessions. All right, section Article 3.3.1, removal. This was to remove the unexcused absent portion, which was highly discussed in our last meeting. The article in whole will read, any person whose primary residence ceases to be within the boundaries of NPU-Y shall be disqualified immediately from serving as an officer of NPU-Y. At any time, a person may resign his or her position as chair of a standing committee of NPU-Y and shall henceforth be disqualified as a member of the executive committee of NPU-Y. Any officer who has 3 consecutive months of absences without contacting or communication without contact or communication with the chairperson or acting chairpersons from meetings of the executive committee or the regularly scheduled meeting of NPU-Y shall be disqualified for serving as an officer of NPU-Y. The disqualification shall be recorded in the written minutes of the meeting when the disqualification occurs. Additionally, any ancillary committee members, committee chair, or ad hoc committee chair may be removed by a majority vote of the executive committee and a 2/3 vote of the general constituency at the regularly scheduled monthly meeting of NPU-Y. Either the chairperson or 3 members of the executive committee may present a motion to remove a person from an officer position and from the executive committee with a 2/3 vote from the general constituency of the regularly scheduled monthly meeting of NPU-Y. I know this was a common discussion in our last meeting, so does anybody have any questions or comments?
Quickly, Madam Chair, 2/3 tracks Robert's Rules of Order for the
It
2/3.
actually tracks another portion of our bylaws. Let me get to that for you. So removal of positions already states for 2/3. And so we are just tracking as 2/3 for removal. All right, moving on to our next section is Article 3.4, corporate information and property. We added a section at the end, which is during the 1 month, 30-day period, the outgoing officer shall not utilize those listed in Article 3, Section 3.4 in a manner which may proceed as a currently holding their prior position. This is for any outgoing officer, committee chair in possession of NPU specific documents, property, or access to proprietary emails and or social media accounts is to relinquish them to the chairperson or the next properly appointed officer or committee chair for their position within 1 month, which is 30 days, of their removal. This is specific to removals, not to new elections. Next section would be Article 3.4.1, record keeping of information and property. This was added as it had no statement of this prior. It is any and all officers shall keep records and NPU specific documents on the shared drive for access by all current officers. Next section is Article 5.1, general constituency meetings. So to read in whole, the general constituency of NPU-Y shall meet on the 3rd Monday of each month, January through December at 7 p.m. or at the call of the chairperson or a majority of the executive committee, except when the meeting date coincides with a recognized state or federal holiday. When the meeting date coincides with the recognized state or federal holiday, the meeting shall be held on the subsequent day. This section where it states the venue for the meeting was then removed. It then proceeds with meetings of the general body, executive board, or any committees may be conducted virtually, telephonically, or in person with 5 days prior notice at the discretion of the NPU chair or the executive board. We added then the NPU chairperson, the executive board, or committee's chairperson has the ability to cancel a meeting due to public emergency, act of God, or other unavoidable circumstances. The announcements must be made through the available NPU-Y communication channels. Eligible members may be able to participate in person, virtually, or telephonically, and shall have all the rights of those attending in person, including the ability to make or second motions, vote, or comment. We then added for change of verb was where a meeting of the general body is held in person and or hybrid, the in-person venue for the meeting of the general constituency of NPU-Y shall be at the John Burdine Neighborhood Facility located at 215 Lakewood Way, Atlanta, Georgia, which shall also be indicated on the NPU-Y agenda or NPU-Y website. Next is Article 5.2, which is our quorum. We've removed the whole section in order to combine into one statement. This is a quorum of NPU-Y shall consist of 9 voting members attending the meeting either virtually, telephonically, or in person for the general constituency meetings of NPU-Y. Again, this was a portion that was largely discussed during our last meeting. If you have any questions or comments on this, you may raise your hand at this time. All right, as I see none, we will move on. Article 5.3 agenda. This was a simple change of removing Twitter and to allow it to state the chairperson in consultation with the neighborhood planning unit coordinator shall determine the agenda for the meeting. The agenda shall be distributed by mail or email, the NPU-Y website and social media networks, including but not limited to Facebook, to NPU-Y members no less than 48 hours prior to each monthly meeting. DCP does email these out on their own as well. Next portion is Article 6.1, general voting. We did not change what was in the section, so voting rights are not changed. However, we did add a portion, which was a policy we already followed, but was not in our bylaws. That is to state absentee or proxy voting is not allowed. Right, these next following items are all grammatical changes only, so they do not change the language of the bylaws, and that was just change BeltLine spelling as the L is uppercase, adding S to meetings instead of meeting, and on the remedies for casting votes, it is the committee chairperson. Again, just grammatical changes. So I see that nobody has raised their hand so far during our bylaws. Do we have any questions or proposed changes to what we have listed on our table here today?
Madam Chair, I'll just say this, specifically with the location of John Burdine, I will absolutely agree to move forward with, but I know in times past, there have been desires and questions to have that open. I think we met at South Atlanta, the Burdine, finding different venues within NPU-Y by which to hold those in-person meetings. So, but again, I will stand without any additional amendments with John Burdine, but for future reference, I think we may want to leave that open because of prior discussions about doing round robins in the NPU for different meetings, for the in-person meetings.
Absolutely, I do agree with a round robin system. The only reason why, personally, I would see that keeping a specific location, if it is to be hosted, is that there is limited confusion. However, the agenda will always state at the top of the agenda where the location of the meeting is. So that is to include our online Zoom link, as well as if it is hybrid or in person. I do not see any foresee future where we will not be using any sort of hybrid or virtual system. However, we will keep that in mind in the future. And we do have remedies to change for each meeting.
Very good.
Is there a proposed change for this, or is it to simply keep that in mind?
No, just to keep that in mind. I again, because I don't think we're going back to in-person meetings, frankly, but yeah, just to keep that in mind.
Perfect. Are there any other questions before anybody has an option to make a motion? All right, I see Russell Hopkins, you have your hand.
Yeah, move to accept all slated changes in one singular vote.
Do I have a second?
Gloria, second.
All right, so the motion is to slate vote, approve all proposed amendment change or bylaw changes. We will be voting through the poll system.
Madam Chair, will you let the record reflect that Devon Dixon asked to second that, and I will rescind and allow him to have second that vote from motion from Russell.
Ms. Secretary, do you have that in the minutes?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Let me just make sure which poll I have, because we actually have a poll open for every single one. All right, so the poll will now be open for slate vote to approve all amended bylaws. If you do have more than one person that is voting in your call, please have them put their vote in the chat. Again, there is no restriction on voting. You must be a resident or a business owner, and you must be 18 years or older. There is no restrictions as to attendance. And we will leave this open for a moment. If you are not a resident or business owner, you may close the poll screen as abstains do get counted. However, we will verify eligibility for residents and business owners as well. All right, we'll leave it open for 15 more seconds. All right, we are closing the poll. All right, so our voting result is 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention. Do I have any in the chat? I see none in the chat. So our final poll will be 15 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention. Motion carries to approve all amended bylaws. Perfect. All right, I am quite surprised how quickly we got through that. So thank you all. I believe going through it last month individually did allow for us to move forward much quicker than expected.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I add that I think it's probably a good idea to reiterate to the body that it's a requirement that we have those submitted by the end of the month. That's why it was imperative that we get it out tonight.
Yes, so the bylaws are voted on every September. We do have to have them submitted by September 30th with our voting results, as well as all of our amended changes. So they are regularly scheduled for our September, which is why we have no other voting or presentation matters. Additionally, these bylaws do not take effect until January 1st of 2024. So no changes until January 1st. Do we have any questions or comments on our bylaws voting matters at this time? All right, thank you. Moving on to old business as we have none, and news business as we have none as well. So I will go to announcements first. The first one that is actually on our agenda is the election of officers will take place in November. That does give us time to open nominations. So if you would like to serve as an officer or in one of our committee chair positions, please reach out to our secretary, NPU-Y @gmail.com. And we will be able to discuss nominations. Any members are able to nominate another member. However, there are restrictions on who is eligible for officer positions, just as voting restrictions are. However, it is 4 meetings within a 12-month period versus 3 meetings in a 12-month period. And you also must be a resident. Are there any other announcements at this time? Adrienne, you have the floor.
Yes, hi. I wanted to invite you all to join us for Morehouse School of Medicine Community Engagement Day. We're going to have free food. We'll have food trucks out there, free food, activities, health screenings, vaccinations. We'll have entertainment. We're going to have some church choirs come out and different lots of different activities and educational programs. And I have dropped the registration link in the chat a couple of times. I'll do it one more time before we close, and I hope to see you join us. Thank you so much. And Gail McCrae is here. I think she also wanted to make an announcement.
If you may raise your hand, you'll be able to speak as well. Unless you are on the same call.
I'm actually dotted. I'm trying to find the thing to raise my hand. This is Gail McCrae, though.
You may have the floor if you like.
Thank you so much. And not really an announcement. I guess We have 9 medical students, first-year medical students, who will be in the NPU-Y community for 2 semesters, being hosted by Carver STEAM Academy. We were there last year also, and hello to those of you who we met last year. These are different students, of course, being first year. They were on the call earlier, but they needed to go back and study, so they were allowed to leave after the first hour. They just want to learn about the community where they sit, and will conduct an assessment so they learn more, and attending this meeting is part of that. And in the second semester, they will do a project that will hopefully help with some things related to the health status of the community. So that's all I have. Thanks, Adrienne.
Thank you so much. Monique Nunley, you have the floor.
Hello, everybody. So I have 2 announcements. One is Carver High School homecoming is 9/29 at 8 p.m. Show up in your maroon and black, and let's turn up at Lakewood. I am working to get some swag in businesses in the area. I'll keep you posted. I'm working with Carver's athletic director to figure out what that looks like, because it is difficult to get swag from Carver because it's a school. So we're trying to get some swag in local spots. If you're a local business and you want to put our swag there, boom, send me an email or chat me real quick. But yes, 9/29, show up, maroon and black. It's going down. Second announcement, y'all, I'm really excited. Second announcement is I'm working on, and Nicole is helping me in the community. We're working on food access. So I have a school project I'm working on with my own school. I teach at a high school, not in the community, and we're doing food access in local Atlanta neighborhoods. A student intern is working with Nicole to identify food access opportunities that range from farmers markets to food pantries to grocer retailers, and all of the things in between. And we have students assembled to do this work. So they're going to need to talk to the community. So I'll be sending an email where you can sign up for an interview slot, meaning you're just telling students what you're interested in, what you'd like to see in your community. And we're going to be pushing this information to our city council people and elected officials and decision makers. But I just want to name before I send the email that I would love for you guys to volunteer a few moments to be interviewed by some amazing 15-year-olds. And our intern's name is Justice, and she lives in District 12 in the NPU.
Yes, thank you. Justice is actually on the call today. If I believe she is still on. So I do appreciate you joining and listening in. We have, I think she's off the call now at this time. So we have, Paul McMurray is up next.
Okay, at the last executive meeting, because members of the committee brought up the fact that the zoning reform legislation is coming up for review by the MPUs, and the updated 2021 comprehensive development is coming up, and we have not heard anything from the city of how they're going to do it. It was certainly inadequate to have to vote on those things based on one meeting of NPU-Y. And I don't know, is Leah LaRue still here?
I sure am.
Can you enlighten us on how they're going to do that? Because it was pretty much a consensus of our meeting that the survey method in which information was solicited through the zoning reform was inadequate and may have been fudged by density-oriented activist groups.
Prior to having Leah LaRue answer this question, I would like to clarify that the response that we did get from the city department was that there will be a further discussion and community review once the committee does put together their proposals. Leah, you may have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. McMurray, and all of my friends in NPU-Y. It's so unfortunate that there was so much misinformation and no one there to correct that. But there is absolutely, I don't even know where it came from that NPU-Y would be expected to vote in one meeting on the zoning code. The community engagement plan is posted on the zoning website at atlzoning.com. It has been posted on that website for probably about a year now. Granted, I will acknowledge it's not that easy to find. So it's page 70 of the, or page 68 rather, starts at 68 of the technical memo. I'm happy to take a moment and find a link and drop it for y'all to make it easier for you to find it. But the engagement plan has been announced times. There have been updates in every planner's report since of this year, updates in every single planner's report this year. And your APAB representative is very active and I don't think has missed a meeting. And we've talked about it at all of the APAB meetings as well. So I'm not sure where it came from that the city is about to present a zoning rewrite and expect y'all to vote on it in a meeting. That's not the case. And that's not what the engagement plan says either.
Thank you so much, Leah. We do have clarity on the topic, and it has been shared with our executive board. So I did drop in the chat the link that Leah LaRue was speaking of for the zoning diagnostic update, as well as if anybody needs additional information from what Kieta Holmes, who is the director of Office of Zoning and Department Development. I'm happy to share that email with you as well.
Thank you.
Well, I only came up with that because although these things are out there, but as you said, they aren't well known, it doesn't really say, well, once they get the zoning reform legislation put together, what are we going to do?
Paulette, I put it in the chat. It is also in that email that there will be public meetings and testing or additional rounds of public meetings to discuss the recommendations that were received as they make their preliminary drafts, and then another round of additional public meetings for the final draft. So I think that we have already squashed the rumor or inconsistency as to what will be addressed when the draft is presented. So until there is a draft, we really have nothing to speak when it comes to the rezoning, the zoning rewrite. So any additional questions, I think we can direct that to Kieta Holmes, as she has been able to clarify the topics thus far. Gloria Hawkins, you have the floor.
Yeah, just quickly towards Paul's question. I believe, Paul, August APAB meeting, it opened up with Commissioner Prince speaking and answering and taking questions. She was there about 20 minutes. And I think you may get some insight into what's in her mind and the direction. Also, I believe if Leah's here, I believe Director Prince is also scheduling kind of a, I don't know if I would call it a town hall, but I think there's going to be another opportunity for her to speak on her broader vision. But again, that's our fairly new Commissioner Prince who's been there.
They're saying it's going to come, but there was no schedule posted.
There is a schedule posted, Mr. McMurray, and it would be so great for your neighbors if that line would not be repeated ever again. It's simply not true. The plan that is on the city's website on atlzoning.com has been on that website for many, many months, if not over a year. It is simply not true that there's no schedule. The schedule is there. The schedule is in the link that your chairperson posted, and I have it in front of me. It's page 71. It shows that there are, now, of course, it's not going to have dates because that's not a good idea this early ahead to have dates, but it shows that there are 8 or 9 rounds of engagement after we get the draft back from the consultants. There were 4 public meetings before the draft, 4 of them, 4 public meetings where anyone and everyone was available to come. It was announced multiple times that the survey would not be skewed based on orchestrated results. That's why we're not doing special interest group presentations or meetings. It's why we're not going to individual NPUs and doing presentations at individual NPUs. We don't want any of the feedback, input, or results to be skewed by any group at all. Once it comes back from the consultants, we will continue the schedule that is posted in the tactical memo, which is on page, whatever I just said, 70, I think.
71, and it is
70.
in the chat as well, so you have a link to it. Thank
Multiple
you.
rounds of engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaRue. I do appreciate you bringing clarity to the topic. And I do think that we have asked and answered the question. So moving on, Jacob Mills, you have your hand raised.
No, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, I just piggybacked on that, but I wanted to speak about the food deserts and to encourage folks to know that in our Southeast quadrant, there are monthly, the YMCA, Carver YMCA on the first and third Thursday, just register. They're really hefty bags of food that ranges from protein to grains to fresh produce. And likewise, as CM Lewis mentioned earlier, I believe it's the first and third Friday of the month that there's also, he partners with the Roselle Fan Center, but as much as 10 miles north, because many say that we're clearly still in a food desert. So essentially there's outreach, both I would check with CM Lewis's website or his newsletter, as well as the Carver YMCA. There's no need for families or children to go home hungry. In fact, at the YMCA, we send kids, after school kids home, 60 of them with food for the weekend from Friday to Monday through a grant from the food bank. So reach out to those families because again, none should be going hungry at this point.
Thank you so much for that information. If you are willing to meet with our intern, as this is her focus this year, is about our food opportunities for our residents in our community. I think that we can start getting that word out there.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Jacob Mills, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to say that one thing that we did miss tonight, and I think we should have had it on there, was the Atlanta housing site that is on Inglewood is holding a hiring program for the development that is going on at the old Inglewood South location. I'm not sure what date that comes up or where those developers have posted that, but that is something that we should talk about. And then the second thing I wanted to say is regarding the zoning and that particular thing. We do have a NPU University meeting that is coming up on Wednesday, September the 27th. It's at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I've been lucky enough to be chosen to go to that. Thank you very much, NPU University, for picking me for this. I'm very excited to go there and speak about some of the issues that we have going on. And with what we have currently going on in the neighborhood here in Piswood Park, we are looking to try to look to pass some type of legislation for some type of proactive rezoning for some of the properties to help us with the food desert issues and some other stuff that we have going on in the neighborhood. So we have a huge opportunity here with the Sawtell location with 17,000 square feet of retail space to help us with those types of issues. So those are the three little things that I wanted to throw out there. And I don't know if anybody's reached out to you, Madam Chair, regarding I guess it's a, I'm not sure how they stated it, but it is a hiring program for, it could be short-term or long-term, to be involved with the Atlanta housing project that's going on the Inglewood site. So that was the three things I wanted to throw out there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. They did announce this during a prior meeting, which they did share the date and information for that. I will find that and put it on our social media account. So please make sure that you follow NPU-Y on Facebook in order to get additional information, or you may contact Secretary NPU-Y at gmail.com if you would like more information as well. Next I have is Troy Nunnally. You have the floor.
Yeah, I wanted to briefly mention the Transportation Committee. I know Jeff wasn't available, but we did meet with some stakeholders, the City Council, PAL Foundation, both Councilperson Winston and Lewis. PAL Foundation Also, we've been in talks with Commissioner Cutler on a connector trail from the Southtown Trail, which is around South Bend, up into the BeltLine. We're calling that the Lakewood Trail. So we're working with the PATH Foundation to raise $7.8 million. We currently have locked down 1.5 with the T-Splosh, and we're working through some other avenues and some strategies to get the remainder funds. One strategy was the CIE, which is the impact fees. Another strategy is using ARC funds through the executive branch, but we have to get the funds submitted through the city. So we're currently in talks. So if you want to participate in that discussion, it's essentially connecting 5 neighborhoods in NPU-Y together to the BeltLine. So we want to get that built out ASAP, as we've been in discussions for it for, say, well over 5 years now. So it's my absolute concentration focus to get this thing out the door. So if you're interested, just let us know, let Nicole, Jeff, or even just pass the email to me and I'll forward it over, and we'll get you into the discussions.
Thank you so much. Are there any other announcements from the general body? All right, as I see no hands raised in the chat, there are 3 dates that were listed, which is our DRC meeting, which is September 20th, the citywide conversation virtual public meeting, which is for the BeltLine transit study, that is September 25th, and also the tax allocation district advisory committee, TADAC, and that is September 26th. Troy, you still have your hand raised. Do you have more to point out? All right. Moving on.
Where are you reading from? Where is that again? I don't see that.
I will drop it back in the chat again. It is in my notes.
Gotcha. And it was the DRC. What were those 3 entities again?
You have the DRC city, you have the BeltLine transit study, and you have TADAC. So the 3 meetings are listed in the chat now on the bottom. All right, moving on to presentations, as we have none, that will allow us to go straight to our planner's report. Elizabeth, you have
Good evening. I just put my contact information in the chat, and I'm going to be sending the link to the updates, but I will run through them. I feel like you guys don't even need me because half of my updates we already talked about. So as was previously mentioned, as soon as that draft comes out, we will start community engagement. It is expected to be at some point later this fall. As already mentioned, we don't have an exact date for it just yet. Also, as was previously mentioned, NPU University does have a session coming up on Wednesday, September 27th, and they're going to be covering the topic of Atlanta city design. There was another meeting, was held on the 7th, so that one actually has already passed, but there is one more opportunity coming up this month, which will be a week from Wednesday. Corner conversations are continuing with the Department of City Planning. We are visiting different neighborhoods around the city. The September date has already happened, but we do have an upcoming October date planned, and the location for that is going to be at Taproom Coffee over in Kirkwood. So not too far from NPU-Y over on that side of town. The Atlanta City Studio, which has relocated to Historic Hotel Row, will be having their grand opening on October 30th. Fingers crossed. It's supposed to be between 12 and 7 that day. They did have a little bit of flooding due to the very heavy rains last week. So hopefully the grand opening won't be delayed, but we would love to have everybody come down, visit that space. It's a really significant historic part of the city of Atlanta, the historic Sylvan Hotel. Really, really beautiful public space now that we've got the water out. And then last but not least, the Atlanta Urban Design Commission has nominated the Fulton County World War I Memorial, which is located in Pershing Point Park at the intersection of Peachtree and West Peachtree in Midtown for protection under the city's historic preservation ordinance. The nomination was passed by the Urban Design Commission and now will be reviewed by the Zoning Review Board and the City Council for full designation as a landmark building and site. If you are interested in more about that, the designation report, all of that will be part of that. So exciting, honoring the men and one woman. There's one woman memorialized on the monument, an Emory nurse who did die overseas during World War I. really significant part of our history and the only historic part of the Pershing Point neighborhood, because all of the apartment buildings there unfortunately were lost. So that's what's going on in the planning department. Open to any questions. My contact information is also in the chat should you need to reach out and have any questions.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for our city planner? All right, as I see no hands raised, thank you so much for joining our call and walking us through any concerns that we may ever have during our meetings. We do appreciate the work that you do as our planner. Next on our agenda is adjournment. So I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, and we will do a slate. Is anybody in opposition of adjourning? All right, as I see none, we will close the meeting exactly at 9 p.m. Thank you all for joining and thank you for working through the bylaws with us as this was a lengthy review and amendments to our bylaws. And thank you so much for participating in our community.
South side is the best side.
Have a great evening, everybody. Let me just pause the